Hi, this is Alex Lifeson of Rush, and you're watching Sonic Perspectives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo, and my guest today is Alex Lifeson of Rush, Envy of None, and a million other projects. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, we're here to talk about the new album of Envy of None, Stygian Waves. I think the first album was more you guys getting to know each other and learning, figuring out how to work together. Now the collaboration is a little bit more cohesive and mature, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we've experienced. I mean, the first project was great. We're very proud of it, but we were learning, how to work together. And I think with the second record, know now what the strengths are of each individual, and we're really starting to mix it all up in this delicious kind of soup.
Yeah. Well, I heard you say that you started working on the second album right after the first was released, but yeah, it definitely seems you guys got closer together as a unit this time around. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we really enjoyed the experience of the first record, and once we finished it and released it, and we knew that it was now in other people's hands,
Yeah.
we thought, like, do we want to keep working? Do we want to continue? And right away, everybody was up for carrying on. So, yeah, we kind of dove into the second record soon after, very soon after the first one.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience working together. We did it the same way,
Mm.
remotely, which is a very efficient way to work. But I think we got to know each other a little bit better with the
Yeah.
second record.
Yeah. And well, that's probably a coincidence, but Stygian Waves is, of course, a reference to the river Styx. And exactly 50 years ago, Five by Night came out with the song By Tor and the Snow Dog, which also references the river Styx. Has anyone made that connection yet? Or
No, I haven't heard it yet, but you're the first.
there you go. So, and well, I know the primary intent was for you to add textures and you didn't want any, shredding or flashy solos, but there's some moments where you shine on the solos, like the story or that was then, even under the stars as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sort of stayed away from it because
Mm.
sometimes there's too much attention paid
Yeah.
to a guitar solo, and it's a platform to be flashy and show what skills you have and all of that stuff. But that's never been an important part of soloing. For me, the
Hmm.
solo has to be an integral part of the song. It has to have some purpose in the song to make the song better, not necessarily as a high point. So, for example, the solo in the story, I that's a perfectly constructed solo for me because it ramps up. It goes up to a crescendo, and then the most important part of the song is what follows after that solo.
Yeah.
When Maiah comes back in and then drives the point of the song, it's that is the high point of the song, and the solo's job was just to take you to that doorway, and then open the door for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think that it's an important part and it needs to be treated as such when
Yeah.
you're doing it. I'm not a shredder. I don't care for that. Frankly, I can't play like that. As I'm getting older, I'm losing a little bit of speed, but it doesn't bother me. And there are a million other guitar players, young guitar players, that are very happy to show off all
Yeah.
the skill that they have.
Yeah, of course. Well, and I know you, Andy, and Alfio play guitar and keyboards. How do you guys split the work when it comes to writing and recording? Is there a stem of an idea that comes from you or from Alfio or Andy, and then you sort of go from there? Or
Yeah, actually, a lot of the stuff does come from Alf and Andy.
hmm
Some of it comes from Maya. Um, what I love is to take those seeds and then grow them into a big, sturdy tree. That's my kind of specialty, I think, in
yeah,
with Envy of None, and I'm quite happy. I mean, we all work very, very closely together. We all share everything about the music and the construction and all of that stuff. So it's a really, really good balance that we have.
right. Well, and there's noticeable influences from Middle Eastern music on at least two songs, Under the Stars and the title track. I know that was brought by Maya after a trip she did to India, right? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, for Stygian Waves. she did a trip to India where she was chaperoning a group of students, um, and it was really an important step for her.
Mhm.
She was, making some changes in her life that were very, very important, and to get out and be very independent and to put yourself in a situation where you're responsible for other people and was really remarkable. And she learned a lot and she did a lot of growing on that trip. When she came back, she had, ideas for Stygian Waves in particular. That song started out as a song called Wham Bam in
Mm.
the very early, early writing title. And we only had like a one little section and then it grew into this big thing with lots of different influences. There's that industrial thing about it. There's a dancing, this EDM kind of thing, and then there's the Middle Eastern influences. I
Yeah,
play oud on it. I'd never played an oud before, so sitting down and trying to learn to play the instrument was really fun. I
yeah,
loved doing stuff like that. Um, yeah, so influence comes from all over the place, and there is a little bit of Middle Eastern, but that influence is in a lot of music. I grew up with, my parents were Serbian, so
mm,
there's a Turkish influence in many things in the Serbian culture, food and music. So it's already deep down inside me, and it just takes a little bit to bring it out.
right, right. Well, and if I was to pick a favorite of the album, I think it would be Handle with Care. To me, it's almost like a metaphor for how the three of you are nurturing Maya's career and providing this platform for her to develop, like her artistic expression little by little. So you're kind of helping her, take off,
Yeah, somewhat. That
Yeah.
that that is somewhat the case.
Hmm.
More uh, more in line with the actual song. Andy's wife was going through some medical issues,
Oh.
and it was a very delicate time.
Mm.
But Maya made turned the lyrics into being much more than one singular thing. And it's about handling people with care, maybe people that are sensitive and see things differently, and not just to throw people out because you disagree with them or you don't care.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
just too much of that these days.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm curious, did your connection with Maya start with this single here with Marco Miniman? It's the first time I heard of her collaborating with
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool that you bring that up. Actually, when we met Maya, it was through a talent contest that
Yeah.
Andy was a judge. And we talked about this on the first record. And so, we brought Maya in to work on music together. After I'd heard what she was capable of doing, I used her for that project with Marco Miniman. I
Yeah.
suggested using her to Marco, and she did an amazing job because that track is very progressive. It's
Yeah.
all over the place, and it's long. It's 7 or 8 minutes long with a
It
lot of
is.
change. So she was right in there, and she did an amazing job.
Yeah.
But that 19 or 20-year old to this 28-year-old is a different person. She's a genius as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
She
Yeah.
her arrangements are so amazing, but her voice and how she carries it and how confident she is in what she's looking for in her performance is just remarkable, the amount of growth that she's had.
Yeah. And I love how the cover of the first and also the second one, they play with almost symmetry. Like both models look and dress the same, but you can definitely tell the difference, right? It's almost like you trace a line and it's almost symmetrical.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of cool to carry on with this imagery
Theme.
that we have,
Yeah.
this the graphic imagery of the two uh, females,
Yeah.
nurses or these girls,
Yeah.
and they're very stylized. They're very fashion kind of um, oriented photographs, but they don't mean anything. There's no hidden meaning or
Right.
anything like that. They're just really cool graphic images. And
Right.
that's what I love because people look for something always like, what does that mean? What does the wind mean? What the binoculars? Are they looking into the future? Like, no, it just looks like it's a cool picture.
Exactly. Yeah. Leave it at that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I know you guys discussed live shows, and that would depend on the interest and the reception of the second album. But have you guys considered doing maybe a soft launch or a one-off, maybe at a place like the Elmo Combo here in Toronto? I think Andy's still connected to the venue, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds easy, but it's not.
Yeah.
We're talking about if we're going to do a show, we would do both records. So
Hmm.
it would be 2 hours of music with some other musicians to do it properly. It's a big endeavor. It's a big, expensive endeavor. And
Yeah.
I think if this record takes off and we have an audience that would support some shows, then we would do it because we'd love to do it. We love the idea, but it's not so easy to just get up and
Yeah.
do. It's not like you're grabbing your guitar and going downtown and playing a gig.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work, takes production, putting a show together, all of that stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, and outside of Rush and Envy of None, you played on a million records. To name a few, Porcupine Tree, Fu Manchu, you did songs with Marco Miniman that we spoke about, with Rick Hammett on his album Resolution 9. You must get tons of invitations to collaborate. What's your criteria to say yes or no to a project?
Um, obviously, I want to be interested in the music,
Yeah.
but I have very, broad requirements.
Mm,
I What I really love doing is taking someone else's music and enhancing it, making it better or different. And so far with my track record, I've been pretty fortunate. Like everything that I've done is something that no one ever expected. They think it's a guitar player from Rush and he's going to do this or this or this.
yeah.
And I often end up doing something that they just don't expect at all. And I get a response like, I never would have thought that, to put a piece of music inside like this, but I can't not hear it now. This
Right.
is exactly the way it should be. So I've been lucky in that way. And so that is really gratifying for me to do that and very satisfying as a musician to be able
Right.
to do stuff like that.
And I was wondering if Joe Satriani ever approached you to be part of one of his G3 tours. Did that conversation ever happen? Because that would be cool. Like you could play the Victor stuff and a few more maybe Rush songs or non-Rush songs. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall
Mm.
getting an invitation like directly. No, but
Mm.
I know Joe. I don't know him very well, but I know him and I have enormous respect for him and
Hmm.
all the people that he works with. Eric Johnson is a dear friend and I love his guitar playing. And he's been involved in a lot of these sort of guitar sort of things. It's not my thing.
Right.
It's not my thing. Those guys are great players, and they get up and they show their stuff. And I'm more interested in being a part of a band or a part of some musical unit, and not at the front of it. More in the back. I like to
Right.
support it, and
Right.
I think I have musical skills that are valuable and effective that way.
Yeah.
As far as Envy of None is concerned, Maiah is the gem. She is the shining star at the front of Envy of None. The music that we make is very satisfying. It's really the music that we want to write and
Hmm.
record for the other three guys. But it comes down to Maiah. She has such an identifiable voice and such a power that she's developed over these last few years. And
Yeah.
we don't have a problem with that. We support it, and we stand for her and support her 1,000%.
Yeah. Well, I actually saw you play with the Real Statics at a West End Phoenix gig
Yeah,
in a brewery not far from where I live. So we were in the back. It was a tiny stage. You were like towards the back. You had a beard then. Do you remember that
that's
show?
right.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember it clearly.
Yeah.
They asked me to do a bunch of stuff, and I get together with those guys and jam on a fairly regular basis. And
Yeah.
Hugh Marsh, the violinist,
Yeah.
who is just one of my favorite musicians ever. He is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We get together. We've been doing some stuff on our own, the two of us, with violin and guitar, and
Wow.
it's just a really, really beautiful, amazing music. But the guys from Real Statics, yeah, I do that. I love to jam. I love to go and do stuff like that just on last minute. Andy Kim, the Christmas shows, I get to play with all these other
Yeah.
musicians and bands. It's really a lot of fun. I feel like I'm in the community and I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
No one should ever be afraid of asking me to do something, because I really do love it. I'm working on a project now with the guys from the Real Statics and Kevin from Bare Naked Ladies
Mm.
on a Great Lakes documentary, and
Okay.
it's essentially a jam project where we get together and jam, and we have hours and hours and hours of material that we're now editing, and it's just I'm amazed at how
Oh,
great
wow.
the stuff is. So
Pretty
there's
cool.
always something interesting to do.
Right, right. And through your career, you played some incredible shows to gigantic crowds, one of them being the Russian Rio, which I had the pleasure to attend. Is there anything you would still like to accomplish on a live setting at this point, or you're more interested in like a smaller setting with playing with your friends and things like that, right?
Yeah, that's like everyday kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Playing the gig in Rio and throughout South America was really an incredible experience.
Yeah,
Um, I I feel satisfied that I got to do a lot of great things. The SARS concert, we had 500,000 people for that
yeah,
SARS concert. So, yeah, I've been on some pretty awesome stages, and it's really great. I did it for 40 years.
yeah,
But that's not the only thing in life, right? There are
of
other things in
course.
life, and I'm a consummate musician. I'm a guitarist. I love playing guitar. I play guitar for hours every day. I
Mm,
don't get bored of it. It's who I am. So long as I can do that in any kind of um, form, I feel blessed.
awesome. And one of the coolest things you and Getty did outside of music was the Rush beer with Henderson Brewery. How did that idea come about? And are you thinking of selling internationally? I mean, I know that Aiden at Henderson would love to bring it to Brazil, for example. I try to
Yeah.
help him with that a little bit, but it kind of didn't work out. But yeah,
No, it's so difficult.
yeah.
It started out as just a fun idea.
Mm,
Our merchandiser Pat McLaughlin, he'd been pushing us to think about doing a beer, and eventually he said, I got these guys from Henderson that are interested. We Again, I tasted 20 beers, I think, over the during the pandemic, and we
mhm.
settled on that beer. And then we did those ads that are really fun. We just do them off the cuff, that we don't rehearse them or anything. We just,
Yeah.
record these fun things. We did license a brewery in the States in Minnesota.
Mhm.
But it's been mediocre the response with them, and you got to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And like every country, every state it's like doing business with a different entity when it comes to anything to do with alcohol.
Yeah.
And certainly in Brazil, they have some of the biggest uh, uh, alcohol or beer companies in the world,
Yeah.
who own most of the beer companies here, in fact.
They do.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's tough to get into other markets that are very, very protected because
Yeah.
there's just so much money
Yeah.
in booze.
Yeah. I know the bureaucracies of Brazil.
Yeah. Yes, I'm
Front and
sure.
back. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, you're involved in a lot of charities, including the Grapes Under Pressure. I attended the 2018 one, which was awesome. Is there a
Yeah.
chance of another edition? I'm friends with Garrett from the board of Grapes for Humanity, and yeah,
Yeah.
would love to have another one. So
Oh, for sure. We had so much fun doing those, but the pandemic
yeah,
really messed up a lot of things for all of that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Um, and now it's been it's so 7 years later. Get and I
yeah.
always talk about it, and we always keep ourselves open to the idea of doing it. And now maybe this year there's a chance that we might be able to do it now that things have settled down so much.
Fingers crossed. Yeah,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. Yeah. Well, and let me talk about Getty for a minute because during the making of Getty's book, I know you were interviewed, and there was a cathartic moment where you mentioned to him that you sort of questioned your role in the band when the keyboards were at the forefront. Can you tell me about that dialogue and how it went down?
Yeah, I guess th- we've always been very open to keyboards
Hmm.
and developing that side of it. And so I don't know why I felt so uh, I don't know, unhappy with it
Mm,
because I really wasn't. I think those records that we made that were predominantly keyboard records are great records. You know, Hold Your Fire and Power Windows.
yeah,
But I just felt like that there was an element of Rush that was getting pushed aside, and that was that core three-piece element. You know, the guitar is a very important instrument. A lot of motion is derived from the guitar in rock music. The keyboards I always felt were just, just fancy dressing. Uh, and it was becoming more and more that way with those couple of records. So I just, and I kept it in, I guess, for the most part, because things did change around with counterparts. We went back to more of a driving core.
yeah,
Um, so obviously in Envy of Now we have lots of keyboards, so it's not like I hate them or anything. It's
yeah,
just I guess it's the purity of players making those noises rather than an instrument that's already got the noises in it.
yeah,
But I got over it.
yeah. Fair enough. Do you write with keyboards for Envy of None? Anything, or it's just purely guitar?
I don't.
Uh,
Usually, if it's an idea that's coming from Andy and Alf, there will be a keyboard element. But they're doing some programming with the drum machine
mhm.
and of course bass. That's always very important. Andy's going to do the bass thing, which for me, provides a nice base for launching points of developing other ideas that sort of are counterpart or are in line with whatever those things are.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. And let me ask you about the latest Rush release, which is the compilation R50. A lot of live tracks in there, some of them previously unreleased. Who has the key to the Rush vote, and can we expect more live stuff coming out soon, or?
I don't know. I don't have that key.
Okay.
I was amazed when I saw some of the stuff that was on there. But Anthem has the whole catalog. They have everything that we ever did,
Okay.
and I'd forgotten. We'd all forgotten about some of those things. And generally, Rush never recorded anything that we didn't use on a record when
Hmm.
we were in the studio. But there are things that are floating around, and including the first single, "Can't Fight It," and
Yeah,
"Not Fade Away." As much as we are embarrassed by those recordings, it's great to have them because it's part of our history,
of
and
course.
that's what this whole package is. And I think they did a terrific job. They don't have to ask us permission for anything, but they always do. They
Okay.
always want approvals. They always want to make us happy that we're not doing anything that we wouldn't have done
Hmm.
on our own. So they've been terrific to deal with over the years, and they've knocked this one out of the park really.
Yeah.
And Hugh's done an amazing job with the artwork as
Yeah.
well.
Does he ask for your approval? I speak with him like somewhat often on emails and stuff like that. He mentioned that you guys exchange emails to talk about the designs and things like that, right? You and Getty and him.
Yeah, somewhat, but not a
Hmm.
lot. I mean, we
Okay.
we leave it up to him. He's always been there, so
Hmm.
it's a relationship that's has been solid for all of these decades. So we have trust in him that he's going to maintain the integrity of what his design is. It's his
Yeah.
design. So we don't get in his way. Everything that he does is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We might
Yeah.
make a suggestion about a color or something minimal, tiny, tiny thing, but generally, it's great everything he does.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I interviewed a lot of artists who opened for Rush, Saxon, Mr. Big, Candlebox, Eric Johnson, Voivod, all of them unanimous in saying how kind you guys were to them. I think in a business that's filled with a lot of assholes, it's great that you guys chose to be kind to the opening acts, right?
Well, we were an opening act for a long time, and
Yeah.
we were treated really well sometimes, and we were treated really horribly other times. And we learned from being treated poorly how not to treat people. And we swore that we would never, treat anyone poorly.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and maybe that's a little bit of a Canadian thing too. We tend to
Yeah.
be on the more polite side and caring and thoughtful. Um, so. you get a new band that's opening for you. You leave a card welcoming them to the tour with a bottle of champagne. It just sets the tone for
Yeah.
happiness. Everybody then loves to work together and push together.
Yeah, of course. Well, my last question is about the acting roles you had on movies like Suck and The Breach. You also did Trailer Park Boys, where you play yourself. How did that start? Is there a chance of you doing more?
I don't know exactly where it started.
Mm,
I guess I'm sort of a pretty extroverted, outgoing person.
yeah,
Um, it's a fascinating realm being in that world of acting. I'm not a professional actor, but I respect the skill of a professional actor because it's not easy. It's not
yeah,
easy to memorize lines. It's not easy to be cool and that character. And great actors can do that so convincingly.
yeah,
Um, but I've always had fun, and they've always been more comedic kind of things. And it's really cool. The guys from Trailer Park Boys are so much fun to be with. They're so cool, and we're dear, dear, dear friends. So whenever I do stuff with them, it's loose and it's improvised, and it's always really a riot.
yeah. Well, you did that documentary in 1973. How did you get selected for that? Come on, children. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that was in 1971 actually that we filmed
Oh,
it. Uh, Alan King, who was a very well-known uh, director at the time, he'd made a couple of films. Warrendale, A Married Couple, that was probably his most well-known film, and they were all done in the cinema verite style, where you'd call it reality
mhm.
programming now, where you move in and you film what's going on in a household
Yeah.
and he would document it. So they wanted to do this movie about 10 kids living on a farm outside Toronto and the kind of things that develop
Mhm.
amongst them. They're all different parts of the city, so very different backgrounds. And it was for 10 weeks. I was one of 350 people that auditioned for it. I just went to the audition
Wow.
and got picked with Jane and Al, who were
Mhm.
very good friends of mine too. The three of us got picked from that one audition session. So it was no, magic. It just happened that we got picked, and then we went to that farm. And that one day, in about the middle, we everybody had their parents up to see what was going on, and it was sort of uh, a luncheon, and they wanted to film it at the same time. So
Right.
that argument that I had with my parents, or discussion, all came from that experience
Okay.
of making that film. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Well, man, I think right now Charlene is probably calling you to have lunch. So let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for so many years of amazing music. And I'm excited for the next step of Envy of None.
great. Obrigado.
De nada. Thank you so much,
Okay,
Alex.
see you soon. All
Cheers.
the best. Bye.
Bye. Bye.